What did you do?
Damn it.
Oh my God.
I got really lucky
Oh, bird.
that I didn't cut. Look how close that is to that vein.
Yeah, that's horrible.
That's not that bad. Oh,
Oh my
fudge.
God.
Fudge, that hurts. Am I sweating profusely?
You're sweating profusely.
Well, I cleaned it really good, didn't I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we're going to butterfly it.
I'm sorry about the blood on the floor.
Ah.
Hey, what's going on, firm girl? What are you doing?
Stop.
My whole hand hurts.
Oh, I bet. I bet it's throbbing. Oh. Poor guy.
And there's blood on the floor.
I know.
And dogs are going to lick it up.
I'll give it.
When I was a little boy, I watched my friend Sammy Walker. His dad was cutting some 2x4s, and he was ripping some plywood, and he went, and he cut his thumb off.
Oh God!
He said, and it was cut off right here, and it was squirting, and it was going like his heart was pumping it pretty far. And he said, he looked at his adult son. He said, "God damn, Chucky, look at there!"
Holy shit.
And I was a little 6 or 7 year old. And I was like,
"Oh my God, you're gonna die!"
I could give you his pulse. I was like,
oh wow, that's disgusting.
73 beats.
Okay, this is making me woozy.
How can you fix me?
We're gonna put some butterflies on.
I can suture it. I got some sutures in
in
our bug out.
Okay, are we done?
Hey everyone, Exoman. I have a story today. I want to tell a story within a story, kind of. So bear with me. It's kind of interesting. It's the story of pain. I know a lot of you have had a lot of pain, and this subject came up recently. It was a comment in the comment sections of one of my video when someone cavalierly said, "Oh, you've never known pain." So I've known quite a bit of pain. So I thought that was ironic, and it reminded me of a story that I once heard. And the story began with me talking about pain. So first, let me go through and just sort of catalog the physical pain that I've known. I'll try to stick mostly to the pain that I've known as a result of traumatic injury, and I definitely will leave the psychological, emotional scarring and trauma for another time. That's not part of this discussion. Also worth mentioning is that I am keenly aware that this is child's play. This is amateur hour, what I'm going to say, compared to what some of our young men and women in military have gone through serving our country, and I salute you all. So anyway, I'll catalog is what I can recall of some of those injuries and pain that I've had, and I'll start at the top. Let's see, when I was a boy in the early 70s, I did a backflip into a very old vintage swimming pool. They used to be made out of brick. Well, this one was, and it was brickwork, and so the whole edge was a brick edge, brick. Did a backflip, slammed my head into the bricks, the sharp edge, went into the pool semi-conscious. Blood was swirling around me, and I was able to barely in a daze able to get out of the pool. A pretty horrible injury. Head shaved for the summer, and a big nice S thing around my head with stitches. I had a clock thrown at me when I was a young man, the old wind-up kind. Just missed my eye. We used to have the winder on the back of them. They were not electric. You wound them up. You put them on your bedside table. I had brain fluid leaking out of my ear. I was in a car when I was a boy that was hit. We were parked, and it was hit from behind at 70 miles an hour by another vehicle. Two of us were pulled out dead on the scene. My mother had her pelvis shattered and her face ripped off, and just pretty horrendous stuff. And like I said, I had brain fluid leaking out of my ear. I was out for a couple of days, thankfully. I have had, let's see, I've had both of my arms go through windows, and all these tendons under that wrist, just below that band, have stitched up, and muscles stitched up on both arms. I was impaled as a youngster. I trusted a boy with a rope swing and a tire swing, and we did it a few times, and then he faked the throw, and I leapt with faith, a leap of faith. He didn't throw the swing for me to, like Tarzan boy, to jump out and catch, and I went spread eagle, slammed down on a stump that a surveyor had cut at an angle of 45, so it was a nice sharp spear coming up out of the ground. It impaled me deeply and just amazingly didn't puncture my lung. I kneeled down in the 60s, Halloween night. I kneeled down. I don't know if you can see it. It was a Coke bottle broken in half and buried upside down in the hard dirt with a jagged edge sticking up. And I kneeled down with all my weight onto that to hide from some trick-or-treaters. And yeah, I hopped home with a deep laceration in my leg. I've had a lot of other lacerations like that. A lot of them I can't think of. I've had the webbing between my hands ripped open. I think I might have showed you I had a toe amputated. I didn't opt for the $2,000 the anesthesiologist wanted to charge to put me under, so that was an interesting experience. Did I mention I had glass in my chin? Still have a chunk of glass deep within there against the bone. I was in the passenger seat of a car when it was T-boned. At a red light, commercial truck hit me, and my face went through the window. My lungs collapsed. The shirt was covered with blood. Couldn't breathe. Thought I was going to die. If you've ever had your lungs collapsed, you know what I mean. It's pretty horrible. Let's see. Smashed out both top front teeth on the pavement, went face first, and scraped off a lot of nose skin, lost all my lip skin. Very painful accident. This was when I was 11. Took a chainsaw to the Achilles heel and almost lost my Achilles heel tendon, and that's a hard one to explain. Had 3 motorcycle accidents before I stopped riding motorcycles, the worst of which was a drunk fool that pulled out in front of me when I was going about 50 miles an hour, and I flew over his truck and got couple of pretty good injuries. Really messed up my ankle on his hood. And there's more. I had chicken pox at 35. My toddler son gave me chicken pox, and I had them everywhere, in my throat, in my mouth, and everywhere the sun doesn't shine, behind, in front, groin, everything, under my arms. We're talking about huge pustule acid, just pustules all over my head. It was all crusty, and God in heaven, that was painful. I was hyper allergic to poison ivy as a child. When they burned it in the town where I lived, I would be covered with the painful hives, and on and on and on. I know I'm missing some of the best ones, but anyway, flash forward. I was beaten with a nightstick by a cop. He laid that stick across my thigh. First I was punched in the face. I was attacked by a bum in New Orleans at Mardi Gras. Well, he was a drunk. He punched me in the face. Sucker punch. Just off of Bourbon Street on Iberville Street. And the police are in full riot mentality. They're ready for anything, and they arrest first and ask questions later. Well, the guy that arrested me was a real son of a bitch. Anyway, he pulled me off of the guy that I was then beating, because he just punched me in the face, and I reacted, and I jumped on top of him, and I was, letting him have it. Well, the two cops jumped on us with their clubs out and started beating us with the clubs. The white cop left us with the black cop, and he took us behind the booking bus, had a spread eagle, and as I was spread eagle, and after I'd been frisked, He walked behind me with that club, and with a batter swing, he laid it across as hard as he could across the side of my thigh there, and almost broke. I don't know how it didn't fracture my bone, but I had a beautiful, huge rainbow colored baton mark and bruise, and it was thick and hard. It was horrible, and I got thrown in the can for fighting, and so those kind of things. And I don't know if I mentioned I had my face bitten open, and I was attacked by a couple of street thugs in New Orleans, and I almost fought my way out of it. And I was rolling on the ground with one of them, and his friend kicked me in the head and face, and I just was dazed. And then the young fellow on top of me, was able to grab my face with his teeth. And a human bite is the worst bite you can get. It was horrible, and it was painful, and it was just, I had to fight the infection, and it was really bad. He tried to basically rip my face off. He got in there and he bit it and he ripped it, and it's amazingly strong, thank goodness. But I had a nice risen scar on my face for a long time. So things like that. So I told a few of these. Okay, so here's what happened. Then flash forward in some years, and I was a young man, and I was in Park City, Utah, up above Salt Lake. We were in Salt Lake, Park City, and I was filming a movie, and I was starring in this movie, and it was called Crawlers. So look that up. It was it was a B movie. I'll leave it at that. And so I was sitting with some of the crew around a table at a restaurant, and we were telling our little horror stories of injuries and things. And so it got to me, and man, I trumped everybody with the stories that I could remember in the time that I had. And everybody was slack-jawed and that's terrible. And that was before some of these things had even happened. And then there was this young guy next to me who was real quiet. And then I kind of looked at him when I was done telling my stories, and he began to speak. And guess what his story was? It only took one quick story to trump me and everybody else. Oh man, this kid was working on a construction crew on the top floor doing some roofing tar. And when you do roofing tar, some of you may know this. You have these big kettles. You have to move around. You bring them up onto the roof with the crane, and they have gallons and gallons and gallons of hot tar, maybe 15, maybe 20 gallon, tanker full of hot tar. And he was working, and he kind of forgot where he was, and he was pulling this rolling cart. And guess what? He backed up off the building with the cart of hot tar, and down he went. And he landed, and he lost consciousness because he had compound fractures. He said he had a tibia bone sticking out, compound bone sticking up out of meat, and he had hot tar swathed all around that, and he was laying in a pool of molten tar, and his skin was melting, his flesh was melting. He said, I woke up. He said, and then I passed out. 2 compound fractures, and I think it may be an compound fracture in the arm, and a leg, maybe another one. He was badly broken, but laying in a pool of molten tar. So that was rough to even hear. So there's a lot of stories of a lot of pain out there, and I just thought it was funny the other day when somebody left a comment telling me, "Oh, you don't know pain, sir." It was a silly comment, but anyway. So there you go. I opened the floor to you, my friends. I know that there's so many people who have had so much more pain than I have. It's all relative, isn't it? So tell me your stories, but please, spare me some of the details if they're so gruesome. Maybe skirt around some of them, maybe dress them up a little bit, or whatever. Just share a brief story or two. And anyway, that's my story within a story. And thank you for watching, everyone.